Hello students, it's Mr. Fred here again to teach you English. I hope you're having a great day. So why don't you get your pen and your notepad and let's start learning. Do you have them? Okay, let's get started. So our topic today is using semicolon to mark boundaries between main clauses. Using the semicolon to mark boundaries between main clauses. Why is this topic important? Because we have found that lots of students make mistakes known as run-on sentence, comma splits, because they don't know how to use their punctuations. So today we're going to solve all that problems and get you doing your work better as you use your semicolon and as you write. So basically, what is a semicolon? A semicolon is a punctuation mark that consists of a comma-like mark, like a comma and a full stop on top of it. So that is a semicolon. You can see it on my screen right now. It has something like a comma and a full stop on top of it. That's a semicolon. Semicolons are used to separate main clauses, and that's precisely what I want to talk about. You could use semicolons, you could use dashes to separate main clauses. So what exactly is a main clause? In our previous lessons, I talked about the main clause. When I talked about complex sentences, I talked about the main clause. The main clause is also known as an independent clause. And as we said before, it consists of a subject and a predicate. On its own, it expresses a complete thought, and it can stand on its own. So when a person writes a main clause, it is assumed that the person has made a point, okay? And when you make a point, you should either end that point with an end mark, which could be a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark, depending on the kind of sentence. But the problem is when you do not choose to end that sentence. And of course, it shouldn't be a problem if you know what to do. So if you're writing one main clause or the independent clause, and you want to add a similar independent clause to that one, you cannot just continue writing without a break in the middle. There has to be a break. If you're deciding not to use a full stop, that's where a semicolon comes in. So you can put a semicolon between both main clauses to indicate that it's a similar point to the point you just completed. So they have the same status. So let's have an example. For example, Mr. John is a farmer. Mr. John is a farmer. If you want to end that sentence right there, you can end it with a period, a full stop, and that's fine. But if you want to write another clause, another main clause, that is similar to what you just wrote, then you have to place a semicolon after that sentence. So we started by saying, Mr. John is a farmer. If you want to go on to say, he grows beans, yams, and corn, you can see that it's still in line with the first sentence of farm work. So of course, after Mr. John is a farmer, you can put a semicolon there and go on to say he grows beans, rice, and corn, or beans, yams, and corn, and you'll be perfectly correct. So this is how to use semicolons to mark boundaries between main clauses. If you do not put the semicolon there, you would have committed a blunder. It should become a run-on sentence, and that's a grammatical error. Some students make the mistake of, instead of putting a semicolon, they put a comma. That's not how a comma is used. A comma is used for many different things, but this is not one of them. If you put a comma, it becomes another error, a comma split. So best use a semicolon or a dash to break these two main clauses, and you'll be perfectly fine. So why don't you go now and write some main clauses, some independent clauses, and use a semicolon to separate them so that you can see that you have truly understood this concept. Thank you for being a part of today's lesson. Until we meet again, I'm Mr. Fred. Have a lovely day. Bye.